So much media, so little time. Who keeps track of it all? That would be me. This is Bob Andelman, and this is the Mr. Media Interview, recorded live on blogtalkradio.com on July 8, 2008. All right, guys, get lost. This one's for the ladies. And ladies, I know what you're thinking. Who does Mr. Media think he is? Oprah? Hell, he's not even Tyra. Why should I give up some of my valuable time to hear him talk about surviving motherhood? On the other hand, he was smart enough to play I Want to Be Sedated to open the show. Okay, ladies, I respect the work it takes to give birth and raise a child. I really do. I have a child. I was a child. And I think you deserve all the help you can get in putting your life back on track after the baby is born and is on its way to childhood. That's why I've invited life coach Julia Roberts to the show today. No, not that Julia Roberts. As if. What would she talk about? No, this Julia Roberts will talk about unpregnancy and her recent book, Motherhood to Otherhood, Step Up to a New You. So put the kids down for a nap, pull out a bottle of red wine, and let's get down to girl talk, or, whatever you call it. Julia, welcome to Mr. Media.
Hello, how are you?
I'm okay. How you doing?
Very good, thanks. I love that description. That was a very good summary.
Oh, thanks. Well, good night, everybody. Thanks for dropping by. Oh, wow. Julia, you, as I understand it, you are a mom from New Jersey. You've had 3 kids. Mm-hmm. When did you have any free time to think about writing a book?
I was walking, as I often do. I walk 3 times a week, and I'm walking in the park, and I was very seriously considering whether or not to have this 4th child that I desperately, really wanted. And the thing is that it came into my head that if I was going to give up this 4th child, it would be because it was time for me to do something for myself. And I thought to myself, if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to get on with my life, so to speak, I'm actually going to get on with my life. I'm not going to just drift along and let another 5 years go by and not be doing something that I really wanted to be doing. So in that very walk, on that very time frame, I decided to give myself an unpregnancy, with a U, unpregnancy, which was just, for me, 9 months for myself to come up with what I wanted out of life and how I wanted to get there. And that's how I designed the unpregnancy. It really came as a way to start me healing myself and getting myself back on track and deciding really what I wanted at that point. Because I think every mom has ambitions, but I think every mom will admit that their ambitions are dramatically changed since before they were a mom. So you have to really go inward and figure it out first.
How did you hit on the word unpregnancy?
Because I literally gave myself 9 months, and I literally channeled every lesson and thought and thing I had from pregnancy into my life as a lesson for now. So I had all the benefits of pregnancy without any of the symptoms.
It's a very clever concept, but I suspect I know why you did not title the book Unpregnancy.
Because I couldn't walk around with the book and explain it to everybody.
Yeah. All right, bingo.
I mean, that was more than I could do. Because it drums up lots of different ideas as to what an unpregnancy could be. And since it's a new word, I put it in the internally and not on the cover. I agree with you. What do you think of the name, Unpregnancy, if it were the book title?
I don't think it would have worked. I think it would have. Most people would have thought of the A word.
Yes, or
opposite pregnancy, and you would have spent all your time explaining that that's not what you're talking about.
Precisely. I couldn't follow the book around and explain. It's a very positive idea. It's the idea of having all the benefits of pregnancy in your life, which is that level of commitment, that little bit of self-indulgence, but also self-sacrifice, that willingness to suspend your expectations and take on new hopes and aspirations, and also just that you get professional help and you move yourself forward. You don't just sort of go, I don't know. You have a time frame. It happens. Your life changes in 9 months.
I recommend professional help for all mothers, whether they go through unpregnancy or not. I just have to say. So do you have people from planned unparenthood following you around trying to get endorsements? How does that work now?
I guess we're going to unplay with this the rest of this conversation. I don't. I think people take it for what it's worth. I think Motherhood to Otherhood is extremely clear. It's a matter of just getting yourself centered and ready to go and rethinking who you are now that you're a mother and what you want now that you're a mother. Because, like I said, I don't believe anybody comes through with the exact same vision of themselves that they had prior to motherhood.
It's interesting. It's not a I'm very involved in parenting my daughter and have been really, since my wife was pregnant. But it's not, I'm not a natural as a person to talk to you about this. But I was actually thinking about my sister, who is her second child, her second boy is now 3, also in New Jersey, I might add. And I think that I was thinking about it as I looked at your book. I was thinking, I don't know if she'd acknowledge this, but I think she had some issues after the first boy, and it took her a couple years to kind of regain who she was and what she was about. And I thought, if I can think of someone that close to me who's been through this, there's probably a lot of moms. And I know you in your materials you point out that there's something like 60 million moms at any time in America.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, no wonder there's so much screaming.
And I think that whether or not you're in pain or just ready, just happy, I think this applies to nearly every mother. But I think some women go through a time of pain where they just really don't know what they want, or it's really upsetting that they don't feel like they are their old selves. Or, for instance, I think when we say ambition and mother in the same sentence, most of us think of sort of like stage mothers and living our lives through our children, when I think it's actually healthier to just acknowledge you have ambition and start to build your own life back again as to what you want, and not give up on your own ambitions and start pushing your ambitions on your children.
Now, what you have here, I call it a book, but really it's more of a workbook. It's, it's not a, do as I say, not as I do kind of a thing. I mean, you've got instructions, you've got guidance, but, you're also encouraging moms to, write out what I'm looking at here. Labor number 5, what gets to you? List 3 hobbies that you enjoy. If you don't have time for the news, cite 3 topics that still get your attention. I mean, every couple of pages there's places for the women to be interactive with the book. Tell me a little about that, why you went that route.
It is very tactical and practical, and I think one thing I will say about a mom is she's pretty go-to. Like, she gets things done, she puts food on the table, she moves around. So if I'm going to say to you, here's something you should be doing, you better be doing it in the next 11 to 12 pages, because moms tend to just get things done. So I wanted to give them an opportunity to right away start to see what it is I'm talking about and how it affects their lives. I don't think we have a lot of time for theory when we really only have small amounts of time. I hope my book is inspirational and theoretical in a way, but on the other hand, I hope it's very quickly applied and you're starting to change your life and your sense about your life pretty quickly.
And go ahead.
Go ahead. So
I was going to say, go ahead, you go.
So I was just going to go back to that exact same goal that you were talking about, where you say, write 3 things that get your attention, whether or not you have time for it, or what 5 things make you hopping mad. Those are just ways to try and help you identify your passions, because really a lot of mothers beyond their children haven't really thought about their own passions very much. They're so passionate about mothering. So it's hard to get yourself to refocus back on, oh, yeah, I really love to tell stories, or, oh, yeah, I really love organizing things. And those are separate, passions.
And so you came up with this idea, and now how did you go from it being an idea for yourself to, for lack of a better term, kind of a cottage industry? I mean, you've got the book, you've been doing seminars. How did you take it out to the other moms in the world?
Well, one of the goals I wanted to do is write a book, but I will say one of the first things I did was invite people to come to a seminar at my house. And I did this because I really wanted to share on pregnancy, and I really wanted to be involved with other mothers and other people's sort of life shift in the same way. So I invited women to come to my house. I think 10 came in the first group, and they came every week for 9 weeks, and I presented a lesson. And the first lesson was something, all the lessons are something that everybody thought at one point during their pregnancy. So the first lesson is you'll never be alone again, which is absolutely, everybody sort of sat around with a swelling belly and thought, oh, I'll never be alone again, you know. And so what does that add up to as a pregnancy lesson? It adds up to, well, why am I able when I'm pregnant to quit smoking, quit drinking, eat well? All of a sudden, all these really hard things suddenly become easy. It's because somehow it's a commitment on behalf of somebody else. So we stand up for our unborn infant in a way we don't stand up for our own rights. I can remember telling somebody in a restaurant to move because they were smoking way over there. And can you imagine if I just did that on my own behalf? I wouldn't even think to do it. I wouldn't think I had that right per se, you know, but my belly sort of gave me rights. And so now I'm just trying to help them see, well, if you can do it on behalf of your children, you should do it on behalf of yourself. There's a level of commitment in pregnancy that you can borrow now. And then the other
Julia,
thing that, yes.
Well, I was going to say, if you'd back up just one second, you talked about that moment where, you know, you discuss how, now these women are pregnant, that they'll never be alone again. How long do you have to wait to continue the conversation until the screaming stops?
I can remember asking my mom, I think it was, like, how long do you have to wait until they let you talk on the phone? And she said, I think 18 or 19, as I recall. Wasn't that the age? You know, every parent's different. Every relationship with their kids is different. And I think people come to unpregnancy at very different stages in their mothering. I've had someone come in who just dropped their last kid off at college. I've had a seminar attendee come in pregnant. And I thought to myself, oh, no, she misunderstood. So I said, I'm sorry, this really is for a post-pregnancy and recommitting yourself to your own life. She goes, oh, I know. This is my baby number 4, and I'm ready to plan.
Oh, man. So
I'm just saying every person has a different time when they look up and come up for air and think to themselves, my turn. What about me? So
you say that this could really apply to anyone with a child anywhere from 2 to 20, that it's not really, you know, it's whenever you're ready.
It's whenever you're ready. And I think more women are ready probably later, and they may consider pregnancy a long time ago in their lifetimes, but it still is the best model in our lives for change and change management. We don't have a better model that happened to us that we can refer to. So even if the memories are sort of distant, the book will help you drum up your own memories of that time frame and reapply it as a general model, because the model is enormous. You went through every phase of change. You changed all people's expectations of you. You changed your life circumstances and set up things. You did everything you would need to do to usher in an enormous change and a great change in your life. And that's what unpregnancy really is, allowing you to take all those lessons and use them forward for whatever change you're trying to bring into your life, whether you want to be a restaurateur or, you know, a home entrepreneur or whatever it is you'd like to be able to set up.
Well, let me. I know we have some moms in our web chat that accompanies the live show, and I'd like to invite them or anyone else to call in and talk to you. Maybe ask a question of Julia Roberts, author of Motherhood to Otherhood. The number to call is 646-595-3135, and of course, I'll caution you that if we're not on live, Julia's probably out, you know, babysitting the kids down the street, you know, maybe changing the transmission on her car or something, and I'm out lying back in the sun because that's what I do when I'm not interviewing. So, but if you're live, if you're hearing us live, please do give us a call. Now, the book is split up conveniently into the 3 trimesters of unpregnancy, right?
Right.
Can you maybe take us through a little bit of the progression of each trimester and how we kind of go from that motherhood to otherhood point? Not us, not we, meaning me, but you people, you women out there.
You have to reapply this in your life as fatherhood to otherhood or something, right?
Fatherhood to otherhood. Yeah, us guys, we got it so good. Otherhood.
Anyway,
God.
Like I said, when I was first identifying this as a need in my life, this need to rethink of who I am and what I want in my life, I decided that I wanted something bigger than just a hobby or bigger than just another diet or bigger than just So I decided to do it in 3 trimesters and revamp my life literally from the inside out. So I started with self. I moved on to love or family and friends, and then finally to my work, whether that's paid or unpaid or whatever community work you want to be doing, but that's where you give your contribution back to the world. So I decided to start with myself, And in that case, I put together 3 lessons that had to do with really looking inward and figuring out what you need and want in life. And that's the kind of exercise you just mentioned, where you start to identify your passions, or you write a mission statement for yourself. That's only you can do this. I can remember at some point in pregnancy, that's lesson number 2, only you can do this. I can remember some point in pregnancy when I thought to myself, wow, I have to do this. Like, no matter what the doctor says or the hospital says they have, in the end, I have to do this personally. So that you have this, so that brought me to this idea that you have to have a mission and an accountability for any given goal. You have to understand that it's you who has to do this. So you have to A, want to, B, figure out how to, bring in the help that you need, but you have to do it in the end. And then the last lesson of the first trimester, which is about self, is you are great with a child. And in that case, you really have to start to understand that you really are great and that you have it in you. Everything you need is in you. Mm-hmm. Just in the same way that when you first got pregnant, who knew how to have a baby, for God's sakes, or much less nurse a baby, or that your body had everything it needed to do this enormous task. You have within you what you need to do what you really want to do, because by the mere fact of the fact that you want to do it, it's what you want. It's going to come from within, and it's going to come forward, and you're going to be great. So I think most of us want something, and we're afraid to want it. But if we want it fervently, we likely have the wherewithal to do it. So that's that lesson.
Okay.
And then having gotten yourself sort of centered and abled and empowered to do what you want to do, I think most of us also need support. And that's the one thing at home, that you might need to tend to some relationships or fix up some, if it's not one thing, it's your mother, as the older say. Or you might need to happy up your kids and make sure they're ready to start helping around the house, or your husband understands where you're headed. So this is about, the next 3 trimester lessons are really about getting help you need and understanding like how you'll move outside the house, or what it'll take. And also just feeling like you don't have to be a human doer. I swear to God, mothers have such this sense of the busy badge. I've earned my busy badge. I've got a list that's longer than your list. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. When in fact, you could just do nothing, and it would all be okay. Your children would still grow. They'd probably even eat. But so just learning to do nothing each day would help you sort of center on who you are, what you want, and what your kids can and can't do for themselves. And so I go through those lessons where you sort of get out of this sense of feeling like you must do everything for everyone or the world will explode, into the sense that some people can do some things that's probably good for them, and you probably could do less. So that takes you through second trimester. For instance, in second trimester, I have a lesson number 6 is called Napping is Not a Crime. And learning whatever napping is for you. That could be actually napping, that could be meditating, that could be doing a craft or something fun, or having just a joy date. So things of that nature that help you just reconnect with who you are and not feeling guilty about it, getting your internal voice to be supportive of that. Remember, I say this, remember, like I'm talking to a woman, but when you're pregnant, you have this incredible...
I take that as a compliment. I'll just assume that's
great.
a compliment.
Okay, but a woman, when she has a baby in her, tends to have a baby nickname. Maybe you had a nickname for your child before it was born, like Peanut or Pumpkin, or I won't ask you.
Tax deduction.
Tax deduction? That is so endearing. Oh, tax deduction. How are you today?
Oh, TD. I call her TD for short, if you must know.
How's my little TD? So anyway, the name notwithstanding, you tended to have a baby voice. And you, inside your head, you would say, oh, TD, we're going to make it up this hill. We're doing great today. Or you'd say, oh, TD, here comes the chocolate cake we were about to have. So the woman, the mother, tends to have a little baby voice, and it's such a calm and pleasant voice for a little tax deduction in there, and tax deduction perks up and feels all happy. Meanwhile, not pregnant, fast forward 10 years, mom eats chocolate cake. What does her voice sound like? Not that. She calls herself every name in the book. She's mean to herself, all sorts of things. So her internal voice is really, really not supportive. It's really not fair. So I try and get them to remember their baby voice. I try and get them to nickname their goal so that they can have a babying sort of kinder voice to themselves and short-circuit those internal scoldings that we all give ourselves on whatever goal it is we're trying to meet. Oh, I didn't exercise today, or whatever it is that you're trying to do. When you don't do it, you're pretty mean to yourself. Whereas when you were pregnant, you're pretty self-indulgent. You just felt like, oh, well, me and little TD couldn't get to it today. So just recouping that voice and that nickname sort of approach to your goal helps enormously.
Now,
so
you notice how easy it is once you start using TD, how easy it is to refer to the kid that way? You laughed at me when I said that, but, anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, it grows on you. I agree. Yeah, I'll probably be calling my son that by week's end, don't you think?
There you go.
Anyway, so then we get into third trimester, and by then you've really sort of gotten your first goal really well salted in. It's sort of you're doing without thinking, and it's happening without a whole lot of effort on your part. Your second goal, which had to do with your love, whether that was family or friends, your goals could be anything. It could be having a long-distance phone night call in a month because you feel like you're missing that kind of connection with your old friends. It could be dealing with something that had to do with your mother. It could be dealing with something at home or just keeping your children happy. It could be any number of goals. And I have a lot of practice sheets in there to help you work out what it is you feel needs the most attention in that goal. But anyway, you've shorn up home, and you're happy in yourself, and you're ready now in trimester 3 to really take on your life's work. And I don't have an agenda as to whether that's paid work, volunteer work, community work. That's really very much about the woman and her passion and what she wants to do when she grows up. I will tell you, I was working when I came to this, so I was already working. So I think a lot of working moms think that I'm just talking about a stay-at-home mom who needs a job. Mm-hmm. I'm really not, because for me, I was working, but I was paying bills, and I was on autopilot, as I think you really have to be in early childhood, whereas there could come a time when you could afford to maybe take a little bit of a risk or change careers or make your career suit you more. You still have to rethink what you want to be in your lifetime since becoming a mother, because it does change. So it's not as if I didn't work all along, but I changed my sense of what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I actually switched careers. I'm not saying that's the only answer, but I'm just saying so that it works. It's important for mothers of all stripes, whether they're stay-at-home, working moms, single moms. Everybody has to rethink their ambitions and try and rework their lives around motherhood and happiness, otherhood.
Right. Well, Julie, we've got a call here. Let's see. Hi, you have a question or a comment for Julia Roberts?
Yes, I do. Hi, Julia. This is Laura Markham. I'm a psychologist, and I work with moms doing basically coaching them on parenting. And what I hear from moms is that they simply don't have time to meet their own needs, much less think about launching something new in their lives. Even taking a shower can sometimes be a challenge. And as I hear you talk about these goals, I'm thinking of the moms that I work with, and I'm wondering, how do you suggest that moms carve out the time to tackle these kinds of goals in their lives?
That's a very good question, and one that I hear a lot as well. And I will say that it is a challenge, as you say. It's also sometimes impossible, especially early on in the parenting phases. When you have a baby, you really are a human doer, and you identify yourself as a mother by doing. You're doing these tasks, and these tasks make you a mother, and competency in those tasks, like diapering and soothing and putting a baby down to sleep, create your new identity as a mother in your own head. And as you progress into toddlerhood, or maybe your child enters into kindergarten, or maybe for you it's when that baby's 6 or 8 weeks, I can't determine the timing of when you feel you're ready to carve out some time for yourself. But when you're ready to carve out some time for yourself, I do believe it will happen for you, whether you're paying a babysitter, bartering. First time I need to do this, I bartered. I took a baby for 2 days a week, and the other mother took the 2 babies for another 2 days a week, and we each got 2 days a week to, understand what we wanted out of life and how to move forward in our professional careers. So I think that mothers, it's not so much a matter of finding time as it is just a matter of feeling like it's the right thing to do for them at the time. So when you get to where you're ready and you really want something more in your life, you'll find the time. What you really need is the way, and I think that this book really does give you a very clear tactical way towards identifying what you want and how to get it in your lifetime, in your life framework.
And as moms use the book to achieve these goals, it's something that they can do on their own timetable, so they can sort of mix it, integrate it into their lives as they, depending on the ages of their kids.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I do have a sort of blueprint in there for a Motherhood to Otherhood group. If you were to get 6 or 7 mothers together, you would have one house who might hire a babysitter for the children, and the other house would host the mothers so that they can separate from their mothering responsibilities and mothering concerns long enough to recenter on who they are and what they want, and as a group do chapter by chapter together. And I think that that is a very strong way to sort it into your life. It's part of your social life. It's part of, you have a support group with the other mothers. You get ideation among you, and you can just go each week, one chapter, the mothers who can show up. And it is very effective in that setting.
How many weeks does that take to work through the chapters?
There's 9 lessons, so that would be 9 weeks.
That sounds
Although
very
I find
doable,
women
actually.
stick together. I find women stick together in a more loose-knit way for much longer than that because they're very excited by what they're trying to undertake, and they're very excited to have the support and help from each other. They bond very closely in the process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you.
Oh, well, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for calling. I appreciate it. I was thinking as you two were talking about that, and I mentioned my sister earlier as part of the reason I wanted to do this interview. I think that she had kind of a mother's group thing going, and I think that helped her tremendously. She wasn't working from this book, obviously. The book wasn't available then, but I think that was a big help to her. And I wondered, as you were talking to the caller about this, if women sometimes, and I think this happens, I mean, you see this even on game shows, you see this on Survivor, women sometimes don't rely on each other as much as you would think that they would. Sometimes maybe they don't bond or they don't trust one another for this type of thing. Or am I overstating something here?
I will say one thing. I think women are afraid to impose. They don't want to impose on each other. That's one of the things I have in the book. I think it's in lesson 1, as a matter of fact, You'll Never Be Alone Again. And that is just how to bring your relationship off the playground and into this territory, which is a little bit more taboo among women, to talk about their ambitions and their goals. I do think that, for instance, you're often standing around going, oh, I can't get Johnny to eat his peas, with someone who happens to be a lawyer or who happens to be, the senior VP of something or other before she quit working at such and such. You know what I'm saying? Many women have enormous amounts of expertise that gets untapped and unknown because we know each other as playground moms. And so we're willing to say, will you bake for a bake sale, but we're not willing to say, can you look at my thing and see if I'm getting a good brand name together? See, nobody looked at Unpregnancy for me. Controversial brand name, right?
Yeah.
So you see what I'm saying? I think we have a hard time imposing on each other. And I do think that the book, as a group effort, helps women bridge those gaps and help each other in substantial ways and expect that of each other when, in fact, socially that's not what we've come to expect of each other. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
I
think so. Yeah, to the degree possible.
What's that?
I said to the degree that it was possible. Let me ask you this. Have there been any concepts in the book that you've gotten some pushback on, some resistance, where moms have not, I don't know, I don't have an example. I'm not out dealing with moms any more than I care to admit.
Okay, well, there's a couple that I can say, are a little harder sell.
Okay.
And I guess that's what you were implying here.
I guess so, yeah.
There's a place in here where I ask people to host themselves an unpregnancy shower. if you're doing this in a group, it makes perfect sense. If there's 7 or 8 of you, or in my own seminar, I do this with an unpregnancy shower. So let's say we've come through all these exercises where we've identified sort of these energy drains and things that keep you from doing things you want to do, such as whatever it is, organizing closets or taking down wallpaper that sort of just sits on your brain, and for some reason you can't do anything until you take that wallpaper down. I know that makes no sense, but everybody has something like that. So I have this thing that I call an unpregnancy shower, and it comes out of all these other exercises where you've identified tasks. So what I ask people to do is put 3 tasks on a piece of paper and put them on the dining room table. This is me hosting a seminar in my house when I'm at the site, whatever table we're using. So they walk around and they pick up. This basically becomes your unpregnancy shower gift list. I want someone to help me organize. I want someone to help me, and I want 2 hours, and I'm willing to give 2 hours. So if I put down a task, I pick up a task. And if people are local, they can help each other, and if they're online, they can help each other. But they basically commit to giving somebody 2 hours to help them do this task that is daunting to the mother who has the task and is easy to the mother who's volunteered, because it is my skill set. It's not your skill set. It doesn't fill me with dread because it's not my family. It fills you with dread because it is your family photos that need sorting, or it is you know what I'm saying? Right. So that gets some pushback because it's so socially awkward, A, to ask for help, and B, to accept help. And that's a real mother's problem right there, a mother of a problem, to ask for help and to accept help. So that one I get a lot of pushback on. But when people help each other, it is just life-altering. Because
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, please, go ahead.
All of a sudden you've got somebody in your house who easily does the job that's taken you, let's say, 3 years to contemplate.
Jeez. Yeah.
And you move forward, you know? So what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to ask you about when you did your own original unpregnancy. What started this whole thing? What were your own goals? What did you achieve for yourself?
My first goal was to lose weight, and that's a mother of a problem, so to speak. It just has to do with, it has to do with just having had children and having put on weight and feeling blobby and lack of energy and things like that. But my second thought on that subject was, a diet is not going to do it for me. That's not enough of a goal in my life to really just feel big and important to me. So my second thing was to just reconnect with my kids in a more creative and wonderful way. So I did lose 50 pounds in my first. I got that ball rolling and I started to lose weight, and really it changed my paradigm enormously because I committed in a way I'd never normally commit. I was positive. I was feeding myself. I wasn't depriving myself. I felt really differently about dieting than I had felt. I felt as if I was eating for 2 the way I had eaten for 2, i.e., my mantra in my head was something like, I'm feeding myself, instead of something like, I'm depriving myself. So I started eating much more healthily, the way I did during pregnancy, mind you, and I started eating much more joyfully, and it really just clicked in a very different way, and I started exercising in a very different way. So that was my first goal. My second goal was with kids, and I let them each redesign their rooms because I just had a boy who was ready for a big boy bed, and kids who are ready to kick up to the 3rd floor. So they're big enough to be sleeping that far away and not feel bad about it. So we took everybody through a room design process and did a great job with everybody. My father-in-law really pitched in, and that was a wonderful thing. I also went on a cruise with my husband because I just felt like it was time for us to reconnect. And I think when you get your last child into toddlerhood, your marriage could use some tending generally, and it's an important relationship, obviously, over time, So I did that in my second trimester. And in my third trimester, I really didn't have a goal. I just was still working hard. I was really kind of a workaholic. And I decided to pull off working a little bit and do a community goal, because normally I would never have considered that. I would consider always my career first. So I did a community goal here in our town. I worked on a public pool, getting us a public pool. And again, the commitment I brought to that was extremely different because it was really informed by pregnancy. It wasn't like, oh, I'll try. It was like, we're going to get a pool. in 9 months, or whatever happened. It took 3 years. But my commitment level to it came from pregnancy. I just was like, I'm not helping. I'm doing this. I'm making this happen. So that was something I would never have done if I hadn't really just been trying to reposition myself and rethink what I wanted out of life.
Mm-hmm. Let me give out our phone number one more time. We're going to, a couple more minutes with Julia Roberts, the author of Motherhood to Otherhood. She also has a website, www.motherhood2otherhood. It's one word, motherhood2otherhood.com. So let me give out the phone number. Last chance to give her a call or offer a comment on what we've been discussing, 646-595-3135. One of the things you say that has been very positive for you in terms of getting to your goals was keeping a daily journal. And I know some people kind of poo-poo that. People aren't used to it. On the other hand, some women may, as teens, have kept a diary, and this could be a very natural leap for them, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And I think people have this idea of a journal being either sort of a description of the day or like a sort of a millstone around your neck, something you have to do, like if you write down everything that happens, or something that has to do with being flowery or descriptive or poetic or literary in some way. And I very much take the journal that is described in Julia Cameron's work, The Artist's Way. It is not intended to be anything other than yourself talking on a page. So if you write for 3 pages without really thinking about what you're writing, you can see who you are deep down inside and what you want deep down inside. By the time you've written something 6 or 8 or 10 times, you look at that and you go, wow, that's really bugging me more than I realized, and I have to do something about it. So it just helps you communicate with yourself and hear yourself in a world where you're sort of outnumbered. Mothers are outnumbered by children and demands and jobs and husbands, but in a case where you just sit down for 15 minutes any time during the day and write down what's on your mind, you'll tend to have better intent about your day. You'll tend to understand what you want, and you'll also, when you get something you've been writing about, be really happy about it, be grateful for it in a way that is more meaningful than just it just happened. So it also helps to inform your gratitude and feel better about like the things getting the things you wanted to get, and motivating you to go for more.
Okay.
So I think you could do that meditating as well. Some people just spend 15 minutes meditating or thinking or doing nothing. Might be the easiest way to describe that without sort of overtones, just doing nothing for 15 minutes. If you're uncomfortable actually writing, you could just do nothing, and I think your brain would go to the things that are bothering you.
Before we wind up here, tell folks what they might find on your website that might be useful. Obviously, you want them to buy the book, but what else? What can they find on the website that maybe might bring them to that point?
Well, the book is really available at bookstores and Amazon. It's not available on my site per se, but really the book has got my blog. I mean, the website's got my blog. There's a forum. There's events coming up and how to contact me with emails. You can comment on the blog and things like that. I'm working on a forum where women can sort of interact with each other and build their own on pregnancies, even individually, but find community on the website. So that would be a good reason. And obviously also there's, contact information. So if somebody wanted to email me with a question, I'd be more than happy to respond. Okay.
And you're available, I guess you do seminars and you do speaking events?
And I do teleseminars. So the events listing of that is how to sign up for a teleseminar would be there too, would be on the site.
Well, let me repeat the website again so that people go to check it out. That is the Motherhood to Otherhood website at www.motherhood2otherhood.com. And, of course, you can find Julia Roberts' book. Okay, everybody say it together with me. Motherhood to Otherhood. I feel like I've said that a lot today.
Yeah.
You can find it at bookstores everywhere, as Julia mentioned, or you can order it online at mrmedia.com or at amazon.com. And, Julia, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been fun. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it, and keep us in mind next project.
Okay. Thanks very much. I enjoyed it.
All right. Take care.
You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. And, of course, for dozens more celebrity and media newsmaker interviews, I can't even talk. Surf over to our main website. That's www.mrmedia.com. That's where you can listen to my earlier conversations with the stars, writers, and producers of Curb Your Enthusiasm, Army Wives, 24, The Big Bang Theory, Pearls Before Swine, Tell Me You Love Me, The Dark Knight, Will Eisner's The Spirit, and many others. And please, 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 if you would, think about writing an online review of Mr. Media, casting a vote for Mr. Media, or marking Mr. Media as one of your favorites, whether you listen to us on Blog Talk Radio, Digital Journal, Blueberry, Zencast, Odeo, iTunes, Podfeed. Oh, I don't know. We're all over the place, folks. And anyway, listen, thanks so much for spending a piece of your day with us. I really appreciate your time and hope you'll come back again very soon. Bye, everybody.